Hey guys, how's it going?
Going good.
Good.
Good, good. Are y'all working on your internship projects right now or just hanging out?
I'm working on it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a little bug with mine, so they're just working on fixing that first. But I'm just here for the Tuesday talk.
Yeah. Well, what kind of bug? What's going on?
So they want me to put in data for their website,
Mhm.
and it's having problems with the index. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure.
That's above your pay grade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else can figure out. Oh, there's our speaker. I was wondering who Renee was. Lily.
I don't know why it just put my mom's name. Like it hasn't been doing that at all. So I don't understand why it's done that.
Yeah,
Hold
that's
on.
interesting.
I may leave and try to come back and try to fix it if
Okay.
that's okay. Because
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why it's
Yeah, or you're okay just to stay. We know who you are.
here. Oh, I can fix it. Hold on. There, that should have fixed it.
There you
Did that
are.
fix it? Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Hey, Corey.
Hi.
Oh, well, our speaker was here and then he left. I guess he saw you guys and thought, oh, I don't know.
A
I'll be
little spooked.
back. Yeah, y'all intimidated him. Trying to come back in. Um, Corey, are you back at EDPA today?
Yes, I am.
Man,
I'm just in a different room.
gotcha. Gotcha. Hi, Dr. Claibourne.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. Thank you so much for offering to speak to our data scholars. Hopefully we'll have a few more join. I hope this isn't everybody. So our interns started last week and they're working on just a wide range of different data-focused internship projects. So kind of still getting their bearings, but it sounds like everybody's, off to a really good start. Definitely this group that's logged in right now.
And you guys are all juniors and seniors in high school, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've actually
Graduated.
graduated. I graduated in May.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We were seniors.
Thank you. Yeah, we were.
I'm going into senior year.
So you guys have already made university decisions then?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Where are you going to be going?
Auburn.
Good
UAH.
choice. Nice choice.
I agree. Very good choice. There's a few more joining us. There's Irene and Jonah and Preston. Hi, guys. So Dr. Claiborne was just asking everybody who's already online, where they're going to go to college. So do you guys want to share your plans or kind of where you are in that decision-making process?
I plan to transfer to UAH after 2 years.
Okay. All right. A few more coming in. Oh. And there's all the otter pilots trying to join the conversation. All right, guys. Hey, Rishi. Hey, Sean. John. And I see Walt joined us. Good to see you, Walt. Hey. Well, if you want to introduce yourself real quick to our crew, y'all will be seeing Walt some more throughout the session.
Hey guys, my name is Walt. I work over at Quant Hub, doing a little bit of everything. We'll be helping out, a little bit. I have previous work experience working for a growth equity firm and the U.S. House of Representatives in various roles. But look forward to helping you out in any capacity.
Awesome. Thanks, Walt. And Walt is a fairly recent graduate of the University of Alabama. So if y'all have questions about UA, he's a good resource. All right. Well, I think most everybody's here. We've got Kingston coming in the waiting room right now. Want to make the best use of our time. So I'm actually going to go ahead and introduce our very special guest speaker today, and then we'll hand it over to Dr. Claibourne. He's got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and he's a wealth of information. So you guys, please take advantage of this opportunity to ask him questions, learn, and I'm sure he'd be interested to hear about y'all's experiences too, especially as you're, looking for a good college degree program and trying to figure all that out. So without further ado, Dr. Jay Claibourne is with us today. He holds a PhD in Business Information Systems Management from Auburn University, a Master of Science in Management of Information Systems, also from Auburn University, a Master of Business Administration from the University of West Georgia, and a Bachelor of Science in Finance from the University of Tennessee. He currently serves as an assistant professor at Auburn University at Montgomery, AUM, and his research focuses on machine learning, artificial intelligence, fraud detection, and public transit operations. Prior to transitioning to academia, Dr. Claibourne spent time in industry as a technical consultant, the Senior Director of Management and Budget at MARTA. So we talked about that yesterday. That's the Atlanta Mass Transportation System. The Manager of Financial Reporting and Analytics at Troutman Sanders LLP, and as an NCO in the United States Marine Corps. So as I said, he is a wealth of information. I think Dr. Claibourne's done a lot of really neat stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and yeah, take it away, Dr. Claibourne.
Hey guys, it's nice to meet you guys. I met Kelsey at a conference in Huntsville at the University of Alabama Huntsville campus, where we were panelist speakers for an AI conference. And she told me a little bit about what you guys are doing. I think it sounds great. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to kind of test the waters a little bit, to get an introduction to some of these more technical areas, and hopefully you'll decide that you love it and jump in with both feet and pick a STEM major related to this type of work. My own experience with education was a very windy road, and I think you'll talk to a lot of people that did the same thing. I think when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a marine biologist, and I was going to be a psychologist, and I was going to be an accountant, and I turned out to be none of those things. And I think that's very typical for the college experience. The more classes you take and the more you expose yourself to new fields, the more you're going to change your mind about what interests you and not so much interests you. I was pretty dead set on the accounting thing until my first accounting class. And then I was absolutely sure I would never be an accountant. It's not what it seemed to me, and it didn't really fit my personality. So then I went on to business, and then I made the transition to tech and never looked back. Tech was the best decision I ever made in my education. And I strongly encourage you, if you're a creative type, if you want the flexibility to work remotely, if you want to build things, if you want to solve problems, a business tech type situation is really going to appeal to you. You'll often hear it called fintech, right? Half financial, half tech. It's a great place to be in the business world. Generally, when you go to meetings with business people, you're the most technical person in the room, which is great. And when you go to meetings with the tech guys, you're the most business savvy guy in the room. So it's a nice way to split the difference and to kind of get a lot of exposure because you'll work with the CIO, the CFO, maybe the CTO, depending on your organization. So it's a great position in a company to be in. You get to really see how it works, get to see under the hood in a company, and have a lot of impact. So one of the things I was going to do today is share a little presentation on data visualization. I understand that you guys are going to do some work in this area during your cohort over the summer. I actually teach a data visualization class at Auburn University at Montgomery. So I'm going to show you a little slide deck with a few animations in it, and then I'll show you a dashboard in Power BI, and we'll build it real quick just to show you how easy it is to stand it up and to move it forward. And to the business people, this will look like absolute magic, right? They don't understand that you can do this with a few clicks and drags and drops. And so just don't tell them. They won't know the difference. They'll think that you wrote 8,000 lines of code overnight. Really, you just did a little dragging and dropping, a few right clicks and left clicks. You'll see how easy it is when we get to that part. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. One second. Okay. So do you guys see the slide deck there?
Yes.
All right, great. So like I said, I created the class for data visualization at AUM, and I teach it. Students really seem to gravitate to it. They like it for the hands-on aspect. And so you might be like, what are you babbling about? What is data viz? And it's just a way to take these graphical displays and help interpret the information. So we're talking about charts and plots and graphs and infographics, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, images and animations. Really, the sky's the limit. If it helps you interpret the data in a visual way, it would fall under the umbrella of data visualization. And the reason that data visualization is so important is because we're hardwired to assimilate information visually. It is the way that we intake information the most effectively and most efficiently. And our bodily processes spend a lot of time on what we see, how to interpret it, what to do with it, how to store it. So you'll see some quotes here on the screen. 75% of learning is visual, 50 to 80% of our brain's processing power is dedicated to it. And when we compare that to other senses, think back to first or second grade when you learned about senses, right? Touch, sight, smell, hearing, the basic senses. And let's just talk for a second about the range of these senses. So how far away can you taste something? I mean, pretty much it's got to be in your mouth, right? So very limited range. How far away can you feel something? Generally about as far as your arm span. If you're an adult, maybe 5 to 6 feet. How far away can you smell something? A skunk or a forest fire, maybe a half mile, maybe a mile, right? I mean, so your ranges are getting out there. But when we look at how far away you can see things, right? Let's take a look. So most people think you can see 3, 5, 10 miles, something like that. You think about if on open water in the ocean, how far away you can see. International Space Station, 250 miles above us in low orbit. It can see us just fine. We can see it just fine. On that same vein, the moon, about 250,000 miles away, we see it, 20, 25 days out of the month. So our vision is by far our most powerful sense. And then you can also, with the naked eye, see the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years away. And you can see that unaided, from your backyard, depending on the time of year. Anybody know what that number is? This really big number here. Right? That's not my paycheck, unfortunately. That's how many miles 2.5 million light years translates to. That's 15 quintillion miles. Quintillion. And that's a number so big you really can't even understand it. Or I can't understand that kind of number. But you can see that far away. So yeah, this is a little dramatic, but the idea is to emphasize to you just how sensitive your sense of vision is and how important it is. And this is why we spend so much time in data viz, really catering to that sense, building data visualizations that play to your strong suit. So I'll show you another example here. So look on the screen and count the number of sevens in that block. I'll give you a few seconds. Just maybe raise your hand or tell me when you get the number.
Is it 13?
Yeah, I think it's about 14.
I got 14. Yeah,
Yes,
14.
It's 14, right? It's painful though, right? It's all on the screen, but it's painful. So one thing we could do, and this is the kind of stuff we'll do in data viz, is this. Look how much easier it is, right? They're still there, still in the same position, same number. But look how easy it is how much easier it is to assimilate this piece of information and to put it to use. And then if we go one step further and do something like this, and it's shockingly obvious where all the sevens are, right? All we did was change a little font color, give it a little emphasis with size, and suddenly the sevens jump off the page at us. And that's really one of the tenets of data visualization, is we want to tell this story with the data. And we do that by emphasizing or highlighting the pieces of data that we want to focus on. Because our readers, generally management types, director types, don't want to do what we did in that first box. They are not going to be amenable to finding the sevens in this way, right? They're busy. They want the answer. And what you really want to do is let them navigate to their own answer. You just want to drive them by doing something like this. Like, it's really hard to miss the point you're trying to make here. The sevens are important. And so that's what we want to do with data viz. We want to kind of incubate this important data and push it forward so that decision makers in the company can act on it. So what we have here is something I like to call data camouflage. The data's there, it's completely visible to you, but it's camouflage. And we see this in other places. We see it like here, all right? This is a type of camouflage called herd camouflage. So if I ask you to take a look at that school of fish and tell me how many fish are in there, you're not going to be happy with me, right? Like, that's not a fun exercise. It's very hard to tell how many fish. Now, we call this camouflage. Are these fish camouflaged against the ocean backdrop? I mean, they stand out like a sore thumb, right? So if you are a bright yellow fish in a dark blue sea, how do you not get eaten immediately? And the reason you don't get eaten immediately is because of herd camouflage. Because you look so much like the fish just beside you and above you and below you and behind you, it's very hard for a predator to pick out one fish. So this type of camouflage is very open, but still very effective. So I'll make it a little easier for you. How about this? How many flamingos do we have on the screen? It's not as easy as you think at first glance, right? Whose leg belongs to who? There's just a few of them. It's very effective herd camouflage, though. They look identical. They move together. They're constantly switching places, backing up, turning, going in circles. They keep moving. It's very, very difficult. And I'll make it easier again. Even fewer animals, still a little difficult to tell whose leg belongs to who, right? And there's only, there's less than 8 on the screen. So our data does the same thing, right? All those 7s that we looked at just a minute ago look like every other digit on the screen. And so it becomes hard to see them because of this herd camouflage. What we'll do with Power BI or other tools, or certainly other tools, is kind of bring the ones that we want to talk about forward and push the ones that we're not as interested to the background so that we can make a decision. Another great case of herd camouflage, right? Zebras look nothing like their natural surrounding, and they stand out like a sore thumb. You can spot a zebra 5 miles away on the savannah, and yet their particular type of camouflage is very effective. When you see the zebras, you can see right away it's very hard to pick out a single zebra. So does anybody here know who Jordan Peterson is? Right. So Jordan Peterson, Canadian psychologist, psychiatrist, very smart guy, very, very bright guy. His politics aside, whether you agree with that or not, fundamentally, he is a very, very smart guy. He gives this example in one of his courses. He tells a story about a group of biologists want to study zebras, so they go to the African savannah, and they set up camp and they go out to the herd of zebras, and they pick one, and they're like, okay, this is the one I'm gonna document. And it does something interesting, so they look down to write notes, and when they look back up, their zebra has moved and effectively disappeared against the backdrop of all the other zebras. So, well, what do we do, right? We can't move forward. We can't pull useful information out of this because we can't identify the zebra that we're after. So they're problem solvers. Somebody gets some red paint and they get in the handy dandy Jeep down here, and they ride along beside the zebra and they give it a little red dot on its hindquarters. And now when they stop, they can see the zebra, so they can track it. So I'm going to put a red dot on that bottom screen, and just raise your hand when you see it. Yeah, much easier, right? Just a little red dot. But now this zebra stands out from all the other zebras, and it's much easier to take action. We can record it, we can observe it. It doesn't get lost in the swirl of other zebras. So I'm going to do the same thing on the top screen. And again, just tell me when you see it. Yeah, all right. So even in a bigger herd, we put a little bit of highlight on the zebra, and we can immediately see it, and then we can take action, right? So that's all we're doing with data viz. We're taking a ton of data, and we're gonna focus our attention down to a laser focus on one piece so that we can make a decision. Anybody guess what happened after this? After the scientists marked the zebras? Yeah. They were immediately eaten by predators because the predators can also see the zebras now. So, not a feel-good story, but it really highlights the fact that if you can highlight your data, you can take action on it. So, I'm sure the Lions appreciated the scientist efforts. So have anyone here ever heard of Gartner's Magic Quadrant? You may not have yet. After you graduate, you'll hear about this type of stuff. And Gartner is just a company that really ranks and rates other companies for individual products or services. So think about if like Edmunds Car Service, they rate and rank cars. Well, Gartner does businesses, and they do all types of different business sectors. And what it really does, it helps other companies who are going to use their product or service decide which product or service is the best in its class. And so people put a fair amount of stock in this when they make purchase decisions. So you'll hear called Gartner's Magic Quadrant. And what they're doing is they're on the y-axis here, they're rating your ability to execute from low to high, and on the x-axis you have completeness of vision from low to high. And what you really want to be is up here in this upper right quadrant, and this is called the magic quadrant. And so this is where you're really able to execute. So you have a very robust product and you have a very complete vision. So this is where you want to be. And so what you'll see over the last probably 5 to 8 years is Microsoft has been leading in this business intelligence platform category pretty consistently. In the early 2010s, right, when you guys were probably in, I don't know, I guess elementary school or younger, the Tableau was really the big one, right? And so it was a software package that would let you, without really knowing how to code, would let you drag and drop and build these interactive platforms. And people were really, really excited about Tableau. And it really took the business world by storm for several years. They led the class without a doubt. Really, no one was close to them. You had things like Click, and then you had the big offerings like Oracle and SAP were always around, but they were always a little behind. It wasn't as smooth, it wasn't as nuanced. And so Tableau really dominated for several years. And then Microsoft came along with its infinite pocketbook and decided it was basically going to buy the space. And it really did a fantastic job of pretty much destroying every other product in the space. And they did that by just sinking a ton of money. They undercut everyone's price and they over delivered. So their product is Power BI, and that's what we're going to look at in a few minutes. They really sunk an absolute ton of money in it, and every month they roll out new developments, right? New updates to the tool, new visuals, new connectors, new capabilities to the platform, and it costs you nothing to download it. Everyone here can go home. Well, I guess a lot of you guys are already at home. After this little lecture, you can just slide over to the Microsoft store or go to powerbi.com and just download it for free. And you'll have the full functionality of it. So the licensing is a fraction of what Tableau was. That was really what killed Tableau, was the pricing was a little high. Microsoft has so much money, they can just take a loss on these if they want until they own the market share. Then I'm sure they're going to start ratcheting up the price. But for now, they really are the best in class. You'll still have a few people who hold out for Tableau. They really like Tableau, and there's nothing wrong with Tableau. I've worked with Tableau at that law firm in Atlanta. It's a great tool, but it's hard to beat Power BI just because of the amount of investment that Microsoft makes into it. Like I said, every month, new features, new capabilities being rolled out, and the fact that it's free for you to download and try. Now, this is a trick a lot of software companies play. Why do you guys think a software company would give you their flagship commercial product for free? Why would I possibly want to do that if I'm Microsoft?
So they can take over the market.
Yeah, I make you guys kind of disciples of my product, right? If I give it to you and you learn it, all you guys are going to go to school, you're going to graduate, you're going to go on to be power players at the companies you work for, and you'll be making decisions at some point. And so if you learned Power BI in school, and now you guys have to set up a business intelligence platform, what do you think you're going to recommend to your company? Of course, you're going to recommend Power BI. So who cares that I gave it to a high school kid or a college kid or someone, a hobbyist? What I really want are those commercial accounts. And I give this to you so that you will bring me commercial accounts. Oracle does the same thing. SQL Server does the same thing. You can download the latest, greatest Oracle software database to your home machine right now for free. And they do that because they want you to know the product. They want you to basically word of mouth advertise for them. It's brilliant. It really is. Instead of gatekeeping with a license fee up front, they just give it away up front. And as long as you don't try and commercialize it, you can try it for free, which means everything you do in school, you can do for free. Soon as you try and stand it up for your company, they're going to have something to say about that, right? They're going to want their commercial fees. But for learning, it's fantastic. You get 100% access to it for free. You can build it, you can play with it, you can explore in it. And so I really encourage you to do that with all the major software providers. If they're going to give it to you for free and let you become an expert, take off with it, right? So again, you can go to the Microsoft Store, you can go to powerbi.com and get it, but it's 100% free. You're going to download the desktop developer or desktop app and go after it. And so I'll show you that in just 1 second. So this is the type of things that you might build in Power BI. And so you see the underlayment there, the original is just a 2-dimensional map, right? And then they've overlaid it with this 3D element that really helps the data jump off the page for you. It's a significant improvement, and it really appeals to us because, like we talked about a few minutes ago, we're very visual. So it makes sense to give this to us in a visual platform. What about this, right? You see these types of dashboards everywhere. And when you look at this, you're like, that's a lot going on. That's difficult to put together. That's probably 15 minutes of work, what you see there on the screen. And that's without touching a single bit of code. Like you could probably do this without ever touching your keyboard. You build this whole thing that you see on the screen with your mouse. It's another type of visual, and there are lots and lots of visuals. When I say lots, I mean they never stop. So think about it like think about visuals like apps. So when I'm assuming most of you guys are Apple people, right? Most young people are, right? They like their iPhones. How many apps are available to you? It's thousands probably, right? And new ones come out all the time. Some are better than others. Some are more refined than others. Same thing with the visuals. Some of the visuals are very professional, very tight. No real flaws in them. Some of them are a little janky, right? Like if you go way down in the app store, you can get some pretty awful apps, right? Like somebody built in their basement over the weekend, right? But somehow got it pushed out to the Apple store, right? You can get to those type things. But some of them, like I said, are super high quality. What about this guy? There's a lot going on here. This one probably less than an hour to build this for sure. Absolutely. And so let's take a look then at some examples. So I'm gonna show you these 3 examples. Anybody ever watch this show on HBO? This show right here, it was on a few years ago. It was a giant hit for them. I'm gonna slide out 1 second. So this is an example of, can you guys see this Game of Thrones bit here? So
Yeah.
this is an example of someone's built, right? And you can go out to Microsoft and see these sample dashboards that have been built. And you can see as you move around in it, the data is going to change. And the beauty of Power BI specifically is that everything is connected. So as you touch one element, if you click on it, it will highlight and filter to all the related elements only. So it will push everything else to the back. So here I have nothing selected, so nothing's filtered. And then when I say, okay, give me season 4, for instance, only the season 4 information is now visible. There is no coding to do this. This is a drag and drop setup. And I'm going to show you this in just a second. I'm going to build one for you in just a few minutes to show you how easy this is to do. And so if I switch to season 6, everything changes. And then if I click it again to deselect it, now there's nothing filtered. And this is one of the really powerful elements of Tableau and Power BI, is that you have all this built-in connectivity. So between these visuals, visual, 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 and visual, you get this inherent connectivity, which makes it very intuitive for the user. So we'll look at this. Here's a sample dashboard about electricity usage. And as I click, pretty slick, right? Pretty slick. No code. Now, certainly there's code in the background, but to build this, drag and drop. And if I select an individual country, you'll see all my connected visuals automatically filter and highlight to accommodate the country I've selected. Pretty slick stuff, right? So your boss, your manager, your director, like I said earlier, this is absolute voodoo to them. They have no idea how you do this. And so if you can create something like this in a day or a couple days, you add a tremendous amount of value. I mean, all eyes will be on you when you build something like this, especially because you can personalize it. Right? We're not talking about just a few templates that you have to work with. You have 100% control over the product, meaning you can change every single element, every border, every shadow, every color on the screen, every font, the size of every font, the position of every element. You have almost an unlimited amount. You have almost too much control. You'll get down a rabbit hole of settings that can be difficult to get back out of. But it really lets you add an almost infinite amount of value, assuming that you have a good data source. So we'll take a look at one more. And this is about UFO sightings, and they've got these little dialog boxes that pop up. And so they've done a little slideshow so that when we hit this, we're going to see these UFO sightings iterate through the different years. So you'll see it. Yeah, so 2011, 12, and you see a shift for each year. Again, they didn't write scripts for this. They picked the visual, they assigned the data source, dropped it on the screen where they wanted it, and away it goes. It's pretty powerful stuff. So it's a long, long way from, the regular old Excel spreadsheet that most companies are absolutely in love with, right? Most companies, you couldn't pull their Excel spreadsheets out of their cold dead hands. Like, they'll fight you in the parking lot to keep their Excel spreadsheets. But what you can't do in Excel is things like this, right? You can make Excel very slick. Don't get me wrong. You can do a tremendous amount in Excel. It was a game changer. There's no denying that. But it's not this. It's not even anywhere close to this. What it makes is a great foundation for this. And I'll show you that in 1 second. I'll show you an Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll show you how we get to something like this. This is an interesting one because if we look at it, all these UFO sightings, and you know, this author, correlated legal cannabis to the frequency of UFO sightings and finds that they're highly related, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. So, again, there are a ton of these free developed dashboards, and what they are really good for is inspiring. I see some of you taking a close look at this to see what states it's legal in. I better get this off the screen. So it really will help inspire you when you see, oh, I really like what they did with this visual. I really like the way they set this up. Well, you can download it and kind of reverse engineer it. And I'll show you that in just a second when we see our demo, where you can look at an existing dashboard and it will show you how it's been built, and you can replicate that and make whatever changes you want. So it makes it very, very friendly to beginning users. So let's hop back over to the slides real quick. All right. All right. So when we talk about data viz, we really want to take a step back for a second and look at the big picture. And that's really what this is. And so I'm sure you've all heard the buzz around artificial intelligence. It's hard not to right now, right? And trust me when I tell you, artificial intelligence will be as ubiquitous as electricity and running water. There is no denying it. It will be everywhere. It will be in everything. And in a few years, it'll just be a given. You won't even think about it. You're like, well, of course it's embedded. Of course it is part of my product. You won't be able to imagine a product without it. And so you have this big world of artificial intelligence, this big orange circle. And then a subset of that is machine learning, and a subset of that is deep learning, which you may have heard about, which powers a lot of the functionality that you like so much. When you talk about things like Copilot and Siri and Alexa and those types of things. And then you have this overlap for data mining, which is kind of this analytical approach to data, something that you guys will explore a lot if you go into an MIS or a CS type major. You'll spend a lot of time there. And then you have the traditional computer science, right? These guys working on hardware and software. Prominent field is really being cannibalized, I think, right now by users outside of computer science. So you're starting to see more and more of these things, these orange and green spheres in the business world, and not just concentrated in computer science. And so when you ask, well, where does data visualization fit in? It's right in the middle of all of it. Right in the middle of it. It's one of those tools that really applies to any place where you're using data. And so I teach artificial intelligence and machine learning course at AUM, and we explore deep learning and machine learning as a subset of AI. And we use data viz all the time, right? We use Python libraries and Jupyter notebooks. You guys may not know what that is yet, or maybe do. And we build out visuals to help the user consume that information that we create. Data mining is certainly going to do it, and of course computer science is. So if data viz is something that interests you, just know that it's right in the middle of the action. It's one of those tools that is always going to be around. It's going to keep evolving, going to keep getting better and better. So I use this to segue into AUM's artificial intelligence lab. So at Auburn University at Montgomery, we've set up an AI research lab. We set it up, started it about 2 years ago, and it's up completely now. And we have this massive NVIDIA computing, I don't know even what you'd call it. It's a workstation. It's a GGX workstation. It costs about $150,000. And that's with a giant academic discount and some smooth talking by some of my fellow faculty members. But this thing is insanely strong. It's $150,000 box, right? It will do an unbelievable amount of calculations per second. They've told me the number several times, and it's so large that I forget it. But just know that there are some projects that you're going to work on that your laptop will just start to laugh at you if you try and execute it on. It's like, no, we're not doing that, right? Imagine trying to do a couple million calculations in Excel. You can do it. It might churn for 45 minutes to spit it out, right? Well, some of the projects you'll do in machine learning or deep learning will use millions of rows of data with hundreds of columns sometimes. And to process all that through an algorithmic approach, which is really what machine learning is, it takes a ton of processing power. And your laptop and your desktop not going to get it done. You need commercial strength hardware to get that done. And AUM has invested in that. Really the only school, I think, in the state of Alabama that has it right now. So it's a point of differentiation for them. And we're doing a lot of research in the field. And so that's what this is. It's a very, very brief. I think it's 2.5 minutes to show you some of the research that's happening at AUM in AI. So I'll play that and then we'll talk about it for a second.
I am an investigator, combing through the DNA of our smallest creatures for a better understanding of genetic mutations. Helping bioresearchers understand alterations in nucleic acid sequences at the most fundamental level to better inform the possibilities for preventing or curing genetic anomalies. I am an economist, measuring inventories, tracking prices, and predicting retail food shortages for wholesale markets in rural India, and informing farmers in the poorest agricultural areas about future crop demands to maximize their wages and improve their lives and their communities. I am a critic, scouring hundreds of movie scores to learn what elements of music compositions are common to Oscar-winning soundtracks, and learning how to predict the next winning score in a Hollywood blockbuster or from among long-shot productions. I am a host, learning to recognize faces as seasons, clothing, and styles change, so that welcoming home family and friends while gently sounding an alarm to the unknown or menacing remains unbiased or reliable. I am a guardian, scanning mountains of transaction and customer data for fraudulent exploits, reliably warning of activity that would threaten mass transit safety, and while also tirelessly learning ridership trends to improve route efficiency while reducing maintenance costs and downtime. I am a researcher, combining patient demographic data with lab results, brain scans, DNA markers, and even nutrition trends to learn the relationships between brain injuries, including those from early childhood that went undiagnosed, and long-term addictive behavior, and to help caretakers map out improved treatment and recovery pathways for veterans, professional athletes, and our family members. I am even the composer of the music you are hearing. I am AI, brought to life by NVIDIA, AUM deep learning, and brilliant minds everywhere.
So that's some of the research that is going on at AUM, and we just had the Master's of Science degree in Artificial Intelligence approved. So that will be a course offering or a program offering starting this fall. So if you are interested, of course, we have an IS program, which is the program that I teach in, and I'll also be teaching in the AI program. So you'll be able to get a master's degree in artificial intelligence. which I think is the first offering in a business school in the state of Alabama, I think. So it's exciting stuff. You know, just got approved earlier this year and at the end of last year. Takes a lot to get a program stood up like that. So if that's something that interests you, you know, happy to talk about that. Questions before we look at the demo for just a few seconds? Any questions? All right, well, I don't want to overshoot my time, so I'm going to hop right into the demo real quick, if that's all right. So we'll close out this stuff. So if I start with something like this, can everybody see this Excel worksheet on the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So this is very typically what you'll start with. And I'll make this available to you guys so that if you want to rebuild what we do today, you'll have the raw data to do that. But this is very, very typical of data that you see in the business world in their absolute favorite format, which is Excel spreadsheets. They love it. They're not going to let go of it. So it's best just to learn to work with it. So if I were to take this data, I could build something like this with it in just a few minutes. So everybody see the dashboard?
Yes.
So
And how many rows and columns were in that spreadsheet? Just like how much data are you working with?
about 50,000, 51,000 rows and uh, looks like fewer than 25 columns.
That's a
So
lot.
not a tremendous amount of data, right? So certainly nothing compared to, you know, an actual production setting where you'll have millions of rows of data. So this is a good exercise size. So, you know, this amount of data will let you build enough without getting bogged down in the nuance of it. It's also pretty clean, which is something that you'll find is not true in the actual business world. Data tends to come to you missing pieces, or it has cell values that don't match up. Someone put a social security number in an address field or something like that. And so part of it will be data cleaning. And that's a sad reality that you spend a lot of your time prepping and cleaning your data. Everybody wants to write cool models and execute the dashboards. That's about 10% of your time. Somewhere around 70 to 80% of your time is just trying to wrangle the data up and get it sorted out and get it cleaned up so that you can feed it in and then build something with it. So again, I'll send you guys this data so that you have it, but it's just normal run-of-the-mill spreadsheet data. And then if we click back over, this is what we can build out of it in about 10 minutes, which I think is about how much time I have. So I better hush and start building for you. So again, all we did was we go up here to get data. Well, and you see how intuitive it is, right? We want to get data. We want an Excel worksheet. And then I would navigate to where it's at. In this case, it's this. And then it's going to go grab it. And it's going to look something like that. We can preview it and then we can load it in. And if we did that, we would get what we have here. So it's going to take all your fields and push them in. And then you're going to get this nice, and this data pane, you're going to get this nice list of columns that you have available to work with. And the visualization pane, these are the kind of out of the box visuals. And if you just mouse over them, you can see what they are. And you guys will be familiar with a lot of these stacked bar charts, stacked column charts, clustered bar charts, stacked area charts, donut charts, pie charts. No one likes a pie chart. Just let me tell you, don't use a pie chart. Rarely in your life do you need to use a pie chart, and never in anything you do for one of my classes. Okay. Not a fan of the pie chart. not when you have all these amazing options. You have all these types of maps and field maps and tables and matrices. So just mouse over it. It'll give you a short little description, and then you can get more. And when I say get more, I mean you can get hundreds more, and more come every single month. So if we wanted to build something like this, so here we have just a banner up here. We have a little logo. We have this handy dandy. You can see when I click on it, it highlights over here on the right what it is. So this is a clustered bar chart. This is a map. This is a slicer. You can see it. It's subtle, but you see the little black box around it. And then this is just a regular old run-of-the-mill text box. And so this looks like it might take a little work, right? And again, as we interact with it, you can see it changes as we click. And you're like, well, that's probably pretty involved. We can rebuild this thing in about 3 minutes, and I'll show you that. So I'm just going to create a new page real quick. And again, I'll make this available to you guys so that you can recreate this. I'll send you guys this dashboard and the underlying data so that when you have some free time, you can just play around with it, see if you can rebuild it. Okay. So I'm going to just hit this little plus sign to create a new page. And then I'll start with the banner, right? So I'll insert a shape, and I'll just make it the width of my page. And then I'll do something like come down here to text and call it the Global Superstore. And I'll just give it some weight. I'll bold it. And so already off to a quick start, right? What is that, about 15, 20 seconds? So what else do we have? We had a clustered bar chart with the country, profit, and category. So I go over here and I clustered bar chart. I'll just resize it real fast. And we had the country, profit, and category. And this is what I was talking about, kind of reverse engineering existing dashboards that you see that you like. So for my y-axis, I'm going to put the country, and for my x-axis will be profit, and then I think it was category was the legend, which means it'll differentiate. And there we have it. So pretty good, right? Well, we're 2 minutes in, something like that. And of course, we have our map. We'll bring it over here and resize this guy real quick. And you see that little red line that appears. See that? That helps me just align things without, like I'm clearly overlapping and overlapping, and there we go. Now I'm not overlapping anymore. So all these little grid lines, these guidelines will help you set these things up. This used to be a real pain in development to align things and to get them completely square and same size and same shape. And now a lot of platforms make this a lot easier. So if we come over here, we can see that we're using country for the location and profit for the bubble size. And so I'm going to use country for my location and profit for my bubble size. And then we're going to have to tweak this one just a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little more working space here. You can see how intuitive it is. And again, all this is being done with the mouse on the fly, right? We haven't seen the first bit of script yet, and we don't need to see it. So I'm going to go here, and this is to format my visual. And I'm just going to change the setting for my bubbles to make them more dynamic so that they change size with the size of the number associated with them. And then I'm going to change the colors. I'm going to do a little conditional formatting. And that just means the formatting is contingent on the value. That's all that means. And I'm going to use a gradient, which means it's just going to change from a high value to a low value. I'm going to give some different colors. And I'm going to add a middle color. And all that means is my lowest are going to be this dark orange, and my highest values are going to be this kind of bright blue. And that looks not too bad. I can just grab and drag around. And if I mouse over, I can see my values. Or if I just click on a country, I can see my values. So if I click off or click it again, it will deselect it and I'll see the whole field. But pretty slick for not having to write anything. So one of the other things it had was a slicer. And a slicer is just an on-page filter. So I'll just click over here in this blank space and I'll click this slicer button and I'll put the category in there. And that will allow us, if you see, we have 3 categories. You can see I can, so take it off France so we can see everybody in the world. We can see the furniture, office supplies, and technology. If we wanted to, we could give it a little more. So I wanted to look at bookcases. And again, all we're doing is dragging and dropping to do this. And I know I'm moving fast, but once you start to play with this, you'll see how fast it is to rebuild this kind of stuff. Then I think we had a text box on the other page. So we'll just go up here to text box, resize it, and then we'll say, here's where you could place some helpful text, whatever it is that you want to describe on this page. You want to help your user understand what you're trying to show them, right? So we built this from this. And what was that, 3 or 4 minutes? Not bad, right? This kind of stuff used to take hours and hours and hours to actually write scripts for. And now we've done all this with the mouse. So we'll look at a couple other options. So this is just another type of chart with our slicer in place. These are called cards, and it's just a way to call out a big value that might be important to you, like number of awards, overall profit, overall sales, overall return on investment, or those kind of key values that you might want to get. You put those on cards so that number is nice and big when the user opens the page. And then something like this. So this is a way to analyze profit by country, state, city, category, subcategory, and product name. And all we did, and I'll show you how to build this real quick. And you can see how you can navigate through this guy. And I say, okay, California was my most profitable state. And what city? LA. That was a big surprise there. And what category? Technology. And specifically accessories. And this speaker. And so you could trace down your most profitable products or services or whatever it is, your most profitable channel, if you will, just by building this decomposition tree. And if we look at how easy that is to build, I know I'm running out of time. I'm going to click a decomposition tree. I'll give it some size. And I'm going to analyze it by profit maybe, and explain it by the country, city, category, subcategory, and I think we did product. So now when we come over here, we open these up for the first time. Category, subcategory, product. And then we'll do one little change so that our trees will collapse for us. And so now when I click it, it collapses or expands. Or you can do this highlight business, right? So if I wanted to see the full path, see how everything else kind of dims and it highlights. And again, we've done all this in 6 or 7, maybe 8 minutes. No coding required. I can send you guys some resources around Power BI, things like Dashboard in a Day, courses sponsored by Microsoft. I can send you guys some things like that. I teach a whole semester course on this. So it's a little hard to ingest it all in one sitting, especially in an hour, but I want to impress upon you how easy it is to build very high quality graphics and dashboards from raw data to completion in, just a handful of minutes. So if you spent an hour or 2 hours or a couple days on it, just imagine, how thorough you could be and the level of precision you could obtain, right? You can make this thing very, very professional. Questions? I know that's like drinking from a fire hose there at the end, but I wanted to get in under my hour mark and make sure that you guys could see just how easy this is. Like I said, and I'll send Kelsey all these files so that it can be shared with you guys, and you guys can feel free to play with it. You can email me if you get stuck on something, and I'll email you back and show you, hey, here's how you undo that, or here's how you build this thing, or whatever. Happy to do that. Happy to provide any information I can to help you guys. It's one of my favorite classes to teach. Students love it because you get to be really creative without having to be, super coding geek, sitting in the dark for 10 hours to make this stuff work. So questions for me before I get kicked out of here?
What are some careers that usually use this type of data visualization?
Yeah, so you're going to use it in a lot of places, right? A lot of DBAs or database administrators are using it now. Analysts use it a ton. You're going to almost every type of analyst will use data visualization now. So there really aren't many business settings that you're going to find that aren't going to use tools like this now, just because they add so much value, and you saw how quickly we could build it. So if you are, if you're the director over furniture, this adds a lot of value to you. I mean, you can really see where you need to concentrate your efforts, where you need to talk to your marketing people about spending more, or talk to your pricing people about, researching price options without having to look at data like this, where it's much more difficult. It's still the same data. It's harder to find the zebras in this data than it is over here, right? It's much, much easier. So you're going to see this almost everywhere in the business world. Great question. Anybody else?
I have a question. From the database, some people could you get the data back out of this dashboard without having to go back through it and having the link to the original data?
Yeah. So let me caveat this. It depends on how it's set up for you. So what happens with these dashboards is they get posted online, right? They're cloud-based, right? You're going to work on them locally, but then you're going to publish them cloud-based. And when the developer sets it up, he or she will mark settings to let people download this data or only view the data. Can they download the summary or the details? So, you would be able to export the data like this and pull this data down depending on the settings that were applied during development. But it makes it really great. You can also export it straight to PowerPoint, which makes your life really easy, right? If you build a good dashboard and you have to give a monthly report, you just export your pages straight to PowerPoint, and off you go to give your monthly presentation. And like you ask, if you have a user that wants to get to the raw data, you just export that one visual, and then he or she has access to that information.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions?
I was gonna ask, what is your email address if we wanted to contact you?
Yeah, so I'll send it to Kelsey so that she can share it with you guys, right? Rather than me mumble it across, and my thick Southern accent's kind of hard to understand, I'm sure, but I'll share that with you. And like I said, all the links to these files, this dashboard itself, so that you can kind of play with it, right? I really encourage you to download this software and just start to play around with it, right? It's free. It's relatively small. It's not going to take up a lot of space. It's safe. You don't have to worry about getting a virus or a worm or anything. It's a flagship product for Microsoft. So they're not going to allow it to, they're not going to tolerate any funny business with it. So download it and really start to play with it, because you can't hurt anything. if you mess one up, just delete it and start over, right? No big deal. You see how fast it is to build it. So no harm can really be done here. Other questions? All right. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you guys letting me stop by and chat with you guys about this. If you have any questions, like I said, once you get my email address, feel free to fire off emails. I respond to students 7 days a week, right? So nothing new for me. If you have questions about AUM or artificial intelligence or machine learning, obviously data viz or Power BI, I'm happy to talk about any of that. If you just want to ask a question about school or career development, happy to answer any questions I can to help you guys out.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Claiborne. We really, really appreciate it. This has been so informative. I wish I had heard this talk a couple years ago. I could really use this tool at my own work. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And yeah,
Thank you.
this has been
Thanks a
great.
lot, guys. Nice to meet everybody. Hey, good luck in the cohort this summer.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'll send you an email, Kelsey. So,
Sounds great.
all right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank y'all.